When people think about the fall of Rome, many imagine similar scenes: barbarians pressing against the walls, soldiers dropping their swords, schemes unfolding in palace corridors. But the truth is, an empire doesn't collapse only from external attacks. The real collapse starts from within. And when we look at history, we see that the force that destroys empires from the inside is always the same: money. Rome didn't fall only because of wars or corrupt rulers. What destroyed Rome was the loss of value in its most fundamental source of trust: its money. And this wasn't even a complicated process. It was the same typical cycle that modern countries still experience today. Why was Rome's monetary system so important? For centuries, the backbone of Rome's economy was the denarius, a coin made of almost pure silver, highly reliable. Soldiers received their wages in it, merchants sold their goods with it, and ordinary people supported their families with it. So the denarius was more than a piece of metal. It was vital for Rome's power and prestige. So how did things reverse? As the empire expanded, its expenses grew as well. Military spending, border defense, massive construction projects, the costs of wars. All of these made state expenses exceed its income. Raising taxes was risky because the people were already living in poverty. Instead, rulers turned to the oldest, easy solution known in history: reducing the precious metal content of money. At first, maybe nobody noticed, but the silver ratio began to fall rapidly. In Augustus's reign, the denarius contained 95% pure silver. In Caracalla's time, this ratio had fallen to around 50%. In Gallienus's era, the coin was almost entirely copper, covered only with a thin silver wash. On paper, it still looked like the same coin. But the public noticed what was happening. When trust collapses, the economy collapses. When money loses value, the first impact appears in prices. It always works this way. If the state manipulates money, the cost is paid by the people. A measure of wheat that once sold for 1 denarius suddenly cost 10, then 20, then even more. The state couldn't keep up with soldiers' salaries. It had to print more money. Merchants refused to accept the devalued coins. In some regions, people even returned to bartering. This wasn't just an economic problem. When money loses its value, the entire social order collapses, and that's exactly what happened in Rome. The crisis of the 3rd century. The period when the collapse accelerated, between 235 and 284, Rome experienced the most chaotic years in its history. Epidemics, civil wars, border invasions, emperors changing every few months. All of these were concentrated in this period, but behind these events was the most powerful hidden cause: the collapse of the monetary system. Taxes collected in worthless coins were useless. State officials couldn't receive their wages. Farmers abandoned their lands. Think about it: an imperial superpower. But its money was worthless. Desperate solutions only made things worse. Diocletian tried to fix the economy by issuing the harshest price control law in history: the Edict on Maximum Prices. It declared, anyone who raises prices will face the death penalty. But when money is worthless, setting prices works only on paper. In reality, everyone turned to the black market. Goods became harder to find. The economy froze even further. Eventually, Rome had to change its currency. During Constantine's reign, there was an attempt to stabilize the situation by introducing a new gold coin called the solidus. This coin remained stable in the Eastern Roman Empire for centuries. But for the Western Empire, it was already too late. Trust was gone, the system had rotted from within, and society had lost its faith. So why does this whole story sound familiar today? Because it is repeated again and again throughout history. Weimar Germany, 1923. When money turns to dust, society collapses with it. Germany printed money when it couldn't pay the war reparations. The result? A loaf of bread rose from 1 mark to 200 billion marks. People carried their wages home in bags. Just like in Rome, once trust collapsed, the economy followed. Zimbabwe, 2000s. Printing money doesn't solve problems, it creates them. When Zimbabwe started printing money, prices doubled daily. Eventually, the country abandoned its own currency entirely. Why does Rome's story matter to everyone today? Because nearly the entire world uses fiat money, money whose value is based only on trust. Rome was the same. When people stopped trusting the denarius, the empire collapsed. Today, central banks print trillions, national debts reach record highs, and everyone acts as if this system will last forever. But history keeps repeating one clear message: if money collapses, society collapses. There are 3 clear lessons to take from this story. Inflation is never an accident. It is government policy, and the cost is always paid by the people. Real wealth is not in paper money, but in assets that preserve value: land, production, skills, resources. No system is permanent. Romans never believed their money would one day become worthless. Germans didn't either. Zimbabwe didn't. But the truth is, the moment money collapses, the entire structure of society begins to fall apart.